Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate kind of how to do the collarbone and how to add maybe some clothing to your person, okay? So Tim Burton characters are often very skeletal and thin, so I'm going to add just a little nape here. This is where our clavicle, I think is what it's called. I could totally be wrong. I'm not an anatomy person. There's just a little indent right where our neck meets our shoulders. And then from that little indent, we have our collarbones. So they just kind of come out in a straight line from there. And again, you could get way more fancy with these, but this is just how most people are gonna do it. Okay, so that's your collarbone showing, okay? Then if you want to add clothing onto here, depending on the type of clothing, your collarbone might get covered up, okay? If you want to add like just a t-shirt, okay, you could add a swoop right here. Just a swoop. And then what I like to do is I like to add a little thickness to it. So I have it kind of come up over the shoulders a little just so it looks more realistic. Right, so you can see kind of the clothing going in. And then I just kind of very carefully swoop that back into the shoulders, and I can erase any extra lines that are there, just so it gives it some more realistic look. And then this would be covered up. So you'd erase whatever's coming up, covering up the clothes, okay? Now that's just a regular t-shirt. You could have a couple little lines here for the thickness of the arms. Now remember, Tim Burton characters tend to be very, very skinny. You can even slope the shoulders down a little more if you don't want them to be so broad. You can trim off a little bit of that pointiness. But typically Tim Burton characters are quite rigid and pointy, so don't feel like you have to make it rounded if you don't want to. Okay, and then their torsos tend to be very skinny as well, but you don't have to worry about that right now because we can't see a lot of it. If you have more space here, if you have more of your torso showing, typically the torso for a body for a Tim Burton character is very thin. So from the neck and the shoulders, right, you'd end up with some rather skinny looking arms, right? This is really rough, people, by the way, so don't judge me. And then you'd have like the rib cage right here, or the chest area, okay? And it comes down to usually a very thin waist, and then we have hips and whatnot. This is more feminine, more hourglassy. If you have more of a masculine structure, it's just not as curvy right there. It just kind of comes down in more of a straight line and then out for the hips, okay? Just the male structure for a Tim Burton character is more rigid. Female character is a little bit more curvy, okay? So for now, we can just leave it like this. There are other types of styles of clothing you can give them, okay? And again, you can look up how to draw certain types of outfits if you'd like, okay? Otherwise, you can just give them a regular type of outfit. I'm gonna give her some buttons on the center here. Add some line down the middle. Actually, ooh, that's not how we do it. I don't know why I drew it like that. Buttons are off center, so the buttons would be down the middle, but it would be like that. The line would be off center. There we go. And I'm gonna draw in some little holes for the buttons. Oof, I'm drawing too fast, you guys. That's an iffy looking button. There we go. I tend to draw very quickly because I used to draw so slowly. I had to learn how to draw quickly, and now I tend to just draw that way. You could leave them like that, or you could add a little button ridge to make it more realistic. So another circle within the circle for the edges of the button. And right now it looks a little messy, but I can always go back and clean it up, make it more neat, okay? And I can draw an X to look like the buttons are sewn in. Very good. And I'm gonna give her a collar to the shirt so it looks neat. I'm gonna have the one that's next to it be a little bit off center so it looks like they meet maybe a little bit off, just to give it a more realistic look. There we go, just a collar around the neck. And now if I wanted to, I could add in some like patterning or details. So maybe I'd make this like, I don't know, flannel. I can add in some patterns for the clothes, right? Have this be however you want, right? It's not a special sign. Now, typically flannel clothing will change a little at the sleeves because sleeves are attached separately from clothing when they're sewn. So I usually draw a line like that, and then the clothing will sometimes change direction a little. The patterning will change direction. So I'm gonna add the crisscross look here. I'm just drawing really quick so I'm not spending forever drawing flannel. Okay, there we go. Okay. So again, that's just a very simple, kind of neat outfit. It doesn't need to be fancy, okay? A lot of the fancy stuff's gonna come in when we do shading, and you know, for those of you who aren't gonna do shading, the outlining or coloring or whatever you wanna do, okay? Then you just go in and now, once we're done with the clothing, you just go in and you erase all your guides to make it look nice and neat, okay? And then lip all the way down the middle there, and yeah, there we go. Pretty much complete Tim Burton character there. There's lots more I could add, but I'm not gonna get too heavy detailed in here. All right, let me know if you have any questions.